Pleasure to welcome back to the program a man who has joined us quite a bit through the years. Is Geno Auriemma after yet another victory. Geno, congrats on the win tonight. The hallmark, the foundation of any relationship is honesty, and I need you to tell me something right off the top. Be honest with me. I know Boban was in there asking questions, and I want to know if he asked questions that were better than what you're used to getting from me in these interactions here.
Well, you know, the funny part is the first thing he said was, I have one amazing question to ask you. And I thought, I never heard a guy call his own question amazing.
Was it? Was it amazing?
Well, it was just like a really smart question too. And then he said, can I have another one? And I said, sure. Is it going to be as amazing as the first one? He goes, oh, no. Way more amazing than the first one. So,
well, I have terrible news. I have terrible news. The amazing question part of your night is over, and now you're stuck with me. And I feel like I've asked you something along these lines through the years because you've had great teams who've steamrolled through the opposition, but this one feels rare, what you all are doing. What has most impressed you about the way this team, Geno, has gotten to 26-0?
Maybe I didn't know whether our defense could be as good as it's been. You know, I thought we would shoot the ball well because we have kids that can really shoot it, and we're young. You know, we have a lot of freshmen and sophomores that are playing. So I wasn't sure, you know, but with each game that we've played, the confidence that they have in each other and themselves just keeps growing and growing. And we have a couple really high level players that can really make or break you any single night. And, you know, Sarah Strong and Azzi Fudd and
Sure.
Blanca, you know, but we've got great role players who do their thing every single night. And I think that's what separates us from a lot of the teams, I hope.
In our neighborhood, Azzi Fudd is someone that everyone knows because she was an absolute star here. And I think about going to play for you, and you could go elsewhere where it's kind of just your show. Obviously, you go play at UConn, you're going to have to kind of wait, not in line, but understand that the role might be different. How much maturity does it take to be as great as Azzi and be willing to be less than maybe you could be if you had to be someplace else, if that makes sense?
You know, every kid has a personality that kind of guides where they end up, you know.
Sure.
And I think when Azzi was coming out, obviously, you know, she knew we had a really good team and there were a lot of really good players here. But she's used to, you know, competing at a really high level. So with somebody like that, you just allow them to do what they're good at. And the only thing that would hold them back, as you know, right away as freshmen, is whether or not mentally they want to carry a bigger load than your average freshman, because she's not an average freshman coming in. So, you know, when you add somebody like that to an already really good team, I think that makes everybody that's already here better, and they make her better. So I think a really good player likes coming here because they are going to be surrounded by really good players, and their game's going to be elevated.
Makes sense. I know I've asked you some version of this through the years because you've been in this place. You really haven't been tested, Geno. And at some point, maybe it doesn't happen. But is it at all concerning when you haven't been in a game where you're coming at that last TV timeout and you're only up a couple, or it's tied, or you're down a couple? Because you can't simulate that. I wonder, how do you prepare for a moment you haven't had to deal with?
You know, that's something I obviously I can't control.
Right. It's not a bad thing.
So, you know, yeah, it's not a bad thing. So what you try to do is you put yourself in a position and practice a lot where you can simulate some of those things. You can't simulate everything, but most of those things. But to me, I think the level of confidence that your team has, whatever the situation is, if they're a really good team and they're a really character bunch, I think regardless, and you know, we had kind of a similar situation in the Michigan game. You know, we were up a bunch, and next thing you know, it's a 3-point game, and we have to get the ball in bounds. We're going to shoot free throws, and we were able to do all those things. And yeah, do I wish there was more opportunities for us to do that? Absolutely, absolutely. But we played a bunch of really, really good teams in
Yep, you
November and
did.
December, and those games went way different than I would hope they would go. But as I said, when that moment comes, if we win, great. If we lose, it won't be because we haven't been tested. Because I've had teams before that have been in a similar situation, and they were able to handle it. But who the heck knows?
I have one amazing question to close. You ready? It's more a theory. It's more a theory. Because you won last year against the team you beat, the way you beat them, after it had been a while, in this new era of NIL and portal, it quiets any question that existed, maybe even in your own mind, about, can I do this again? And I feel like it puts you singularly, Geno Auriemma, in a place where there is nothing left to do, and that makes you maybe even more dangerous than you were before. I got a dozen titles. I've done it in every era, and I felt like it lightened you. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it is, Scott. I think it is. After 2016, when Stewie's group and Mo and Tuck and those guys graduated, we had a lot of really, really heartbreaking losses in the Final Four, buzzer beaters. And then we had a string of injuries. So part of me was, I get it. You're not going to win it every year. I get it. The other part was, well, we're still going to the Final Four every year. So these people that are out there saying, it's not Connecticut's time anymore. They're not we went to the Final Four 15 out of 16 years. So we still put ourselves in a position to win the whole thing. We just never had a full team. So last year, when we did have a full team and we were back in the Final Four and we were able to do what we did, it wasn't kind of like validation of any kind. It just, this is what is possible when Connecticut has a full complement of players. And for me personally, yeah, like I go into the season now, like I have for a while now, actually, feeling like, okay, so if we don't win another championship forever, that as long as I'm here, it really doesn't matter. I don't win them for me anymore anyway. Last year's national championship didn't affect me one iota. But those kids on that team, Paige and all those guys, you changed their lives forever. So, that's still the reason why I think, you want to keep doing this, not because, you need one more trophy or you need people to go, hey, for an old guy, he's not a bad coach. I don't think you need that.
That's why I didn't ask if it was validation, because I didn't view it as such. But I think you said, yeah, and it just lightens everything, right? You got nothing to prove to anybody, but it's nice to be reminded that when you're healthy and you got all hands on deck, that you're you. And you guys are again, and you're playing amazing basketball. I don't know if any of this was amazing, but it's always really good to visit with you. I always appreciate your time and your kindness, man, and I'm sure we'll be talking again come springtime, all right?
Yeah, well, any chance I get to sit down with you and just talk about some things, I really appreciate that. And thanks for taking the interest in what we're doing. So, God, it really means a lot.